a longtime friend, colleague, soul seeker, healer, healing instigator. It's been a long time coming, and it's super cool that we have come back around full circle after so many years of knowing each other, working with each other, connecting, sharing, doing live events together, doing video podcasts together, all kinds of stuff. Dr. Ray Doctor, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to do this. I was thinking right now, but let's not get into technical stuff. I wonder if there's going to be a delay on Facebook and they hear the speakers of what we're saying here versus what's happening there, but we'll figure it out. But what I like about this is
You know
how
what?
we're just trying it out and having a good time.
Yeah, that's right. We're trying it. We're just doing stuff. So we'll see, right? I guess
Yeah,
we'll see
yeah,
if it
yeah.
functions or not. We'll whoever watches at Facebook, this is practice, so hopefully you enjoy this. And if there's any technical feedback or anything, feel free to share. But we're in the learning as
All
we go.
right.
So my podcast, the intention of Breaking Through with Brad, has been the theme of my life. It's really about helping people to break. Well, first of all, me learning how to break through, have breakdowns, and then have a breakthrough. And what I realized in my own life was that like, instead of resisting the breakdowns, I started getting excited to having the breakdowns, because on the other side of the breakdowns is the breakthrough. And once I shifted my consciousness in that, life became a lot more fun. And I've been enjoying it a lot more. And I've had, I'll have much more to share about that. You and I can dive into that. With you and I were talking about that in the beginning, just these last few days. But that's really the intention of the podcast, is to learn how to have breakdowns to get to the breakthrough, because we're constantly, if we can do that, we're expanding, we keep expanding, we keep expanding. And then life never gets old, and it's fun all the time. And it's super exciting, right? So hang on, let me read. I want to read here's a little bio of Ray. His Dr. Ray Doctor is a transformational coach, motivational speaker, and best-selling author with over 30 years of experience helping adults clarify purpose, realign authentic identity, strengthen relationships, and move beyond imposter syndrome and analysis paralysis. Blending psychology with practical tools, Ray helps audiences move from insight to grounded, decisive action. His work has been featured on HBO, and Psychology Today, and is just a badass. So welcome, Ray.
I'm glad that you read the short bio, not the one that would take 20, 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's
I
why
know.
it's like I
Yeah.
realized that because I was tired of, I just had my website redone and there's a small, medium, and large bio, and it's just so much easier to do it that way. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So listen, you and I have been talking we've been like reconnecting these last week and a half, 2 weeks, and we were talking about, our journeys and everything. And that's really what I want to continue on with here. You're the one that brought up about betrayal, and
Hmm.
how, like, getting betrayal, even as men, even as just as friends, not doesn't have to be romantic, but let's talk about that a little bit. But first of all, let's go back. Let's go back in time, and I'm gonna kind of fill people in. So you and I have known each other for about 20 years now. We met out in Los Angeles. I moved out there to pursue my dream and be doing my love and communication coaching. And I started a talk show called The Mailroom, which you were on numerous times.
Hmm.
You were a guest host on all the time. And that was going amazing. And we had all this stuff going. And then that's part of one of my betrayals. The rug got pulled out from underneath me from my former business partner. Never been so shocked and literally devastated my soul and my life, and it nearly ended my life because of the journey I ended up going on. So, but you and I, you were doing your coaching. I met you. You were helping people. This is what you've been doing. You've been a rock star. You're a musician. You do all these other things, and that's one of the things I love about you, is how different and things that you're a surprising person, because you're really heartfelt and you do these things, but then you're also like a wild, crazy maniac. Well, you were, right? You were a wild, crazy maniac musician and all
Yeah.
that. And now you're a father.
Yeah. Well, it's funny is I saw Robert Plant. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and the show didn't start late, but it was like 7:30 p.m. and that's when I'm starting to like wind down with my family. So it was like, I'm like, oh, I hope I can stay awake. I hope I can see the whole show, and it was fine. But for me, 10 o'clock, woo, that was a late night now.
Yeah.
But I wasn't the only one there that was older and kind of going, oh, wow. But, but yeah, thank you for that reflection. You and I met both on the mail room, but also at events. And also, you had come to a couple of my workshops, and you and your former partner showed up. And I don't know how comfortable you feel that his name slips out, but I know a lot of people probably know whom we're talking about, and it
Yeah,
could
no,
come
it's
up.
fine. I mean, we use his name. It was Corey, my
Yeah,
former
yeah,
business
yeah.
partner, Corey. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I had been on one of his, when he started doing something on his own, I was on one of those podcasts as well. And you and I started talking about this because you and I had, not we took space from each other, but just you went back to Colorado to heal. I had a child, and life was going in that direction for me. And you and I had not had a lot of conversations in between that time. In fact, the last time I had seen you was at an event in Topanga, and you were emaciated. You were like really like skinny. And I remember that conversation. I don't know. I said, "Are you looking to lose weight, or is this something else?" And then you opened up, because a lot of times in, like, say, like Los Angeles, if you lost some body fat, people assume like you're trying to lose weight rather than you're experiencing depression. And at the time, I didn't.
Yeah.
You were in the middle of it, the muck of that experience with your former partner. And then you and I started talking again, and then you started sharing about that, and it came up with like how often people move into a partnership with somebody, and they do events with, or it's just a different dynamic than, say, an intimate relationship like a lover, and it pulls on your heartstrings the same way, maybe even worse, because you're not giving it the same reverence that you would if you're ending a marriage. And so, like, speak to that, Brad, because it's really more your story on that. But that's how this kind of conversation came up. And we also want to talk about like what's on the other side, the gifts, who you are now, how we're shown up as well. And of course, I have some of my versions of that also, and partnerships as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was, so when I saw you last, it was about 15 years ago. And, I had, Corey and I, my former business partner, who was my co-host, and we were creating the mailroom, and that was really getting some serious legs, and we were real meeting with the biggest people in LA and having meetings, and it was going, it was happening, and something just happened during that time where something inside of him snapped or shifted or something, and I kept thinking he was going to snap out of it. I kept thinking he was going to be like, hey, I'm okay, and and it just never happened, and it just got worse and worse and worse until literally everything, all of the meetings and all of the financials and everything, all these things that we had going, just like crash and burn.
Mhm.
And I was I was in, it's all the different stages you go through. I was in denial. I was in
Mhm.
denial. I was in rage, like total rage,
Mhm.
and then I was in grief. And so when I saw you, it was like after all that had happened, and then I was still sitting there in disbelief that here we had worked so hard for 4.5 years to get this baby, this thing pushed, right up the hill to the top of the cliff, where literally we're right at the cliff, and they're basically handing us a check and going, here you go, you're going to be on national TV, famous and money and all this stuff. And all of a sudden it's just boom, gone. And I had gone and done that 5-MeO DMT journey, the
Mhm.
bufo journey, kind of looking for some answers, and ended up having this incredible experience, like blasting off and all of that. But I think the combination of that powerful of a medicine, along with the tragedy and the grief and the loss that I was already experiencing, it was too much for my system. So it just like blew a gasket, and I ended up.
Yeah, they
That's when
call
I
it a
saw you.
psychotic
Was like
break.
I was experiencing.
Yeah, it's a
What's
psychotic
that?
break. Yeah, the psychotic break. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
that's right. That's a terminology for that. Plus, there's others, but like other ways we can describe it. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I was having a Kundalini awakening for real.
Hmm.
And that it was, so it was like energy that was flowing through me nonstop and it wouldn't stop. So when I saw you, I was emaciated because I didn't know I had so much energy going through me. So I wasn't hungry. I wasn't my regular self. So it was like, I just felt like energy flowing all the time. And so I was like shriveling down. And that was just the beginning. Like when I saw you last, that was the beginning of that journey where then I ended up, to the point where I literally couldn't talk. I literally was stuttering and stumbling. I was like it was that bad. It felt like I was being electrocuted. And so I flew back immediately to Colorado because my mom was like, just come home, jump on a plane, and so then I started that whole journey. I was like in the Western medicine field, seeing doctors and going to doing the Western medicine thing, which was its own insanity on top of not knowing that I'm having this Kundalini awakening, plus
Yep.
all of the devastation and grief that my heart and my soul felt destroyed from losing this thing that I had created. And so it was just this catastrophic, obliteration of this rock I had been pushing up the hill to get to the point of success, and then it was all gone. And then I had to, be sitting in that state of basically feeling like I was being electrocuted 24/7 nonstop. And to come back to the conversation, the topic, the level of betrayal that I felt from that human and that experience, and his lack of empathy, his no remorse, no,
Mhm.
never once I'm sorry, never once anything, where that just it was never, it was gone. Like everybody, I talk to clients and stuff and people all the time where they're like, somebody would just say they're sorry and stuff. And so like, yeah, I get it. I get it. And there's times where, because if he would have said sorry at any point during that time,
Mhm.
I would have taken him back.
Mhm.
I would have. And so it was this weird lesson from God to be like, yo, sometimes people just they've served their purpose and they're not meant to keep going.
Mhm.
And that was super hard for me to accept.
Mhm.
Like, because I loved Corey. We were super tight. He knew my whole life. I told him everything. And he had helped me. And he was a great partner for a great
Mhm.
business partner for so many years. And to have that just left turn was just devastating.
Yeah. Well, I loved Corey as well, and I had a lot of good times. And of course, I didn't have any fallout like that. However, throughout the years, probably the last time I did it was maybe 3 years ago because I had some videos chopped up that were older, and there he was. I'm like, I want to see how he's doing, but he's never responded. I don't put expectations on it, but I do have a positive experience and thoughts about him still. But what I want to share, because people don't know the backstory, and this is not about like, talking about someone's like exact past, but you and I agree that there was
Yeah.
a lot of self-sabotaging. That oftentimes what happens that when people somehow whatever they're saying, you can't get caught up with maybe all the words they're saying to why they're saying it, why they're pulling out, why they don't see it the same way. Because if their emotional, psychological makeup is filled with fear of success or being seen as a fraud or an imposter, then all those, say, strange things that come from them, the behaviors, is coming from that unconscious place where they're afraid to like finally have to admit to maybe the beliefs they have of unworthiness or something else. So oftentimes people, and I see this, I've seen this many times in like in relationships where when you finally get the person, and I'm talking about in a container in which they're willing to take accountability, typically those people will just say when they finally surrender to their ego that has been leading, it's typically these responses. I was afraid. um i I don't know why I did this, but I was feeling fear. To I was clinging to uncertainty. To whatever. It's a very simple statement when they turn it in and kind of go, that was me, or my ego, and that's it. And that same, say, unhealed psychological emotional makeup, you'll see that in typically their intimate relationships where they might go from woman to woman to man, where you see them as a good looking person. They attract this very attractive person. And it even seems like the other person is pretty grounded and communicates well. And then it ends again. Then it ends again. You're thinking like, what is it that this person somehow goes from relationship to relationship when they seem like an awesome guy or, woman? And we don't typically see that. We don't see what's really going on with our friends and people close to us in those when they're in that dialogue of arguing or self-sabotaging. But in business relationships, in relationships where it maybe feels like there's less risk and you're not literally sleeping with a person or you're not a roommate with a person, those shadows can show up and you see them and you just don't understand why, because it's like one moment you're doing something that's really kicking ass. It seems like you're in a line with something, and the next moment it's like they're afraid. And you just see that poor behavior, which is what you are describing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the lesson that I've learned from that was, I mean, because it took me years. It took 5 years for me to even be like really
Mhm.
process, and that's something, I would want to share with people is, the grief, like go allowing yourself to move through all the different stages of anger, rage, sadness, disbelief, denial, and grief, and just sadness. It's I once I came back to Colorado, and once I came through that Kundalini spirit awakening, where I was starting to, the energy was slowing down, and I was able to start functioning again. There was still a lot of sadness, and there was moments when I literally there was one day I was laying on my bed, and my mom was asking me something around it, and like my whole body got hot, and I like literally like flaming hot, and I literally just got my pillow, and I just went off. I was just like beating the shit out of my pillow, like screaming for probably a good 5 minutes,
Mhm.
like just wailing on it. But that me allowing myself that time and space to do that, it did release. It was like, so it was different things like that, where as I stayed curious as to the healing, there would be these moments when I would keep getting layers and layers, and I would keep releasing the anger and the sadness more and more, because I didn't want to be consumed by it anymore.
Mhm.
It's it's like, because I can talk about it now, and I can look at Corey, and I mean, I just, there's no energy, there's no more, there's no upset, there's no sadness, there's
Mhm.
no rage, there's no anger. It's just neutrality now,
Mhm.
and but it was years of being able to breathe and look at those things and look at the layers that were coming up inside me that were so painful,
Yeah,
so
what's the gift
painful
now? What's I know we're gonna get
oh,
into,
it's a
but I want
gift.
to know what's the gifts
Yeah,
now? Like who have you become from that? Like what awareness did you get from that? What are the
100%.
golden nuggets?
100%. Well, that's the point. And that's what, that's why I share my story about it. When people ask me, I'm like, look, this was like the most large level of betrayal I've ever experienced in my life, where I shared my purpose. There was my purpose, this thing, this idea I had. I shared it full
Mm.
on with another human, and we collaborated and created, and it was this baby we created, and it was growing, and it was getting there, and then all of a sudden he just decides to change his mind and just whoop pulls the rug out, and really becomes, his whole personality and everything shifted, right? It was like
Mhm.
that complete shift, where here's this human who I'm communicating with, and we're just raw and real every day, to where it was like he was inhabited by a different being, like it wasn't even the same person,
No,
and that
well that
drastic
shadow,
shift.
that shadow that you saw was exactly what I was talking about. You don't typically see that shadow with somebody because they experience that with their lover, a family member behind closed doors.
Right.
So what I was curious about,
Yeah.
because I know this for myself, the things that have been tougher for me to move past have been those who I expected more from. Those who I
Right.
expected more from. So it'd be that they are a coach, they claim to be a Buddhist and steeped into compassion, to
Yeah.
the way they portray themselves and communicate using spiritual jargon and whatever. And then in this moment, their, say, personality friction points come out and you're experiencing a completely different person. And then when you try to invite that person in that space to have a transparent conversation, they avoid that, they deflect, they project, or they might even say that this is your stuff to work out and not lean into that. And so we don't really know how people show up when they're in their shit. You know, it's one thing, Brad, like before I embark on any type of relationship, and I'm talking about with even my partner, Nicole, or somebody I'm going to like literally like start investing time in. Like, for example, I'm looking to create another band. Well, as I get to know the band, I would ask these questions very early on. And that is, what do you like when you are in your shit? How do you know and I know when you're in your shit? And how can I support you when you're in your shit? Because if you know those things and you see that person stressed out and those shadows and behaviors start to surface, then you recognize it. You can call the person in and say, is this what's going on? And then maybe you can support it, hopefully. But typically, it's not love that destroys things. It's not the possibility of the, say, project you had, that there was anything that of it that wasn't supposed to make it. Like, meaning the love is still there. The love still exists. But what usually screws things up is how people cope with conflict, how they truly lean in or not to talk about those things and take accountability. Because the moment when people take accountability, there's very little to fight against. There's very little to say. As an example, I'm just going to make this up. If I were in a kitchen and I left the milk on the counter, and I did it a couple times, and finally my partner would say, you know, could you please to remember to put the milk in our fridge? Well, imagine if I said, well, you do this all the time, give me a break. I'm working, I'm busy, I wake up early, I didn't see it. Then several things wouldn't happen. One, she wouldn't feel safe that she can communicate with me. Two, nothing would change. I maybe would still do that. And three, there would still be this resistance within her body and in myself, just a bunch of defensiveness. But if I were to say, you're right, I will do that. Thanks for letting me know. She's not saying I'm wrong. Even you in those moments, I know you, Brad, you were never trying to say you're wrong. You were never trying to say, if you tell me the truth, I'm going to fucking hate you anyway. You were saying, hey, I'm your brother, dude. Like, this is the type of authentic communication and transparency we talk about in our fucking show, and yet you and I are not doing it. And so part of it also, I know, is probably you're thinking, how can I actually move forward with this when we as this unit are sucking at this, right now? And so that's what people don't realize, is that like the moment you surrender and like people think that sorry means you're wrong, or sorry means you admit to that you're wrong, or sorry means that you're the cause of the problem. Sorry could simply mean that I'm sorry we created this together. I am sorry we created this together. It could be, I'm sorry you're experiencing that. I'm sorry I'm experiencing this myself. It's like people have an issue with saying sorry. And there is so much healing with just owning that, because what happens naturally when both people surrender is this forgiveness. Like, I see you, because, we can see that we're all human and trying to work things out. And it's so beautiful when people can show up in that space, and that's it. I know that would have excited you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for sure. And all the things you're saying, they're all wonderful theories, right?
Yeah.
It's being able to practice it in the moment when we're triggered, right? And when we're really in the shit. And that's what the lesson was for me with this particular situation, was whatever it was that was going on in him, he had made a decision or something, that it was just a switch. Like it was just a complete switch. So there wasn't any of that dialogue we could even have about it. And you know, again, every lesson, every situation, this is the main one that really taught me how to let go.
Yeah.
Really, I had to learn to let go and
Mhm.
trust and come back to God, because here's this beautiful thing that I'm like, oh, this is my purpose. I'm doing it. I'm living it. It's building. It's building. It's growing. It's about to take off,
Mhm.
and then it's evaporated, and all the different lessons of letting go and trusting and surrendering that I learned from that. And and I know I had my part to play with certain situations that I'm sure that he had issues with. And I don't blame I don't I don't blame him for that, because there were certain things I was doing that were,
Mhm.
I wasn't fully in integrity with and full on integrity in my life in ways.
Mhm.
And but we could have had a conversation about it. Like we could have
Well,
talked
do you
about it,
mind
like
mentioning what
really
those
sat
were
down,
back then?
because
What were those?
what's that?
What was the
What's that?
not in integrity? What were some of those things?
I mean, he just had issues. I mean, it was probably around some of the financial stuff, money stuff.
Mhm.
Um, partying and going out and do having fun and stuff like that, and substances, and it was like, because he was a recovering alcoholic,
Mm.
and so
It's triggering the shit
he
out of
was
him.
not he never. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And but what he didn't know is I had stopped everything. Like I'd stopped everything for the last 6 months. I didn't do anything while we were like when we were going, and it was we had all that momentum. I was clean, fully clean, and just focused on what we were doing. And so I don't know if that was one of the things, But
Yeah.
plus, he started dating this woman at the time who was definitely a mouthpiece in his ear, and
Mhm.
I know she was talking shit, and talking shit because she was putting some bad shit in his ear, because he started saying things where I was like, he never ever said that stuff to, like, ever. And I
Mhm.
was like, hang on a second, you just started dating this girl, and now you're saying all these kind of weird judgmental things, and where is this coming from? So it was just a perfect storm of all of it. But again, I don't have any regrets about it. Like it's made me so much more grounded and patient and calm as a person,
Mhm.
in especially in business relationships, especially in creating something with other people, because you have to get your ass kicked to really observe and pay attention to red
Yeah.
flags. It doesn't matter. Hey man, I was like, I can help. I'm a love. Like, dude, we can talk about anything. Blah blah blah. Well, it doesn't work if the other person shuts down and
Yeah.
we literally will not talk. Literally won't say anything. You can't make them talk.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know why it's a
So
little
look. So
look,
so
look.
can we get into? Can I ask you? Can I ask you about like that situation you were sharing with me yesterday?
Sure, but real quickly, a little digression, and that is
Yeah.
it's because I like to share with people like what a projection could look like and what it looks like owned on the other side. So I don't know if you'll watch this video, but my ex guitar player Jim, who I just absolutely adore and love, well, we were playing on stage, and this is with the Pac-Man, and we used to have some very attractive women jump up on stage and dance with us. And let's talk about they're like kind of dancing right by him. And he had a talk with me. He says, I can't be having those women on stage, on with me. I'm a married man. I'm like, dude, I go, you know how many musicians would dream about having women so into our music and dancing with us that they would die for this gig? There's a lot of people wanting this gig. And it says, what is it? And it came up one more time. And he just came clean. He says, dude, he says, I used to have a porn addiction. And he says that I want to be loyal to my wife. And, he pulled, I'm a Christian, I'm married. I'm like, yeah, but he's still playing a rock band. I mean, you can still be those things. It's not like you're doing anything, but he still felt uncomfortable with what can happen. And I thought about this because you mentioned Corey being a recovering alcoholic. It's like I see that. And also this, you'll see people who are in recovery, they think everyone's an alcoholic or has a problem. That too, which is another form of
Right.
projection. So, or they get upset because other people can drink and they can't. So, those are all the things that exist as well, when someone's in, say, recovery, but like I shared with my buddy Jim, it's like when you own it, like after he said that, I'm like, I just became more compassionate. I went, all right, okay, and we agreed that it was not a big deal. But for him to share that with me, it let go of that energy, even some of that resistance on stage. You know what I mean? So you wanted to ask me a
Absolutely.
question?
Yeah, you were just sharing about your own something in your family about betrayal, and how you're processing and going through that right now. Like,
So
are
at
you
the
willing to
very
talk about that?
Yeah, yeah. A couple things. I want to talk about some people that I'm teamed up with that's similar to your situation. Uh, Before I answer that, I'm not avoiding this. What's interesting, Brad, is that at the time that this was happening with you and Corey was the same time where my two groups that were of 10,000 people in Santa Monica fell apart, meaning that for whatever reason, Meetup got bought out and I got caught up in the algorithms where they stripped the group away from me. It was an interesting experience. And this is maybe 2 years into being a father. So I relied on the money I made from that. That was a great lead generator. But it was an interesting thing for many people, and it's not an isolated thing that many of us kind of go through this like long journey of finding ourselves. But that's what's interesting. You didn't know about that. I didn't say anything to you about that. But that fell apart. A few of the things that I was hoping that would take off, definitely humbled me. So, yeah, with my
Yeah.
family, I have never have spoken about my brother Pete, and I have avoided conversations about him, uh, particularly online, because we have had mutual friends. I just didn't feel the need to put that out there. But not just that, it was because I didn't want to make our business, other people's business. That was part of the issues, that the way I communicate and how transparent I am, that he would constantly troll. And this had nothing to do with him. It had to do with my experience with my father, my experience with my mother, meaning same parents, but he didn't like how I would communicate about it because it wasn't his version. So it was just, I had to remove him off of Facebook because he was actually one of the trolls. It was a trip. But the betrayal part would be this, is that I expected him to be a bigger brother. I expected him to have more compassion for me. I expected him to celebrate like my wins, even when my book came out and I was a bestseller, and it was with the people from Chicken of the Soup, Chicken Soul for the Soup. Um, I said it wrong, but anyway, everyone knows what I'm talking about. Is that he
Yeah.
made a sarcastic comment in a thread. And every moment, every exchange I would share with this idea that uh, my life is doing well, it came back with a lack of support, maybe sarcasm or something negative. But the reason why I brought this up in a conversation with you and I was this, is for me, it's a little bit different. The worst betrayal that I experienced from that and other people was how much expectations I put onto people to show up like me, and integrity, to meaning that I know there is the behavior of the person who may not support you or lies or goes a different direction without having a conversation, like gaslights you. But for me, what I experienced from that is how I continue to expect him to show up all these years and never had. And then in time, when I
Mm.
noticed that this was happening with other family members and other situations, I started seeing that, it's just not me. I can't invite him into this space, and I had to let it go. I had to let that go. So for me, like most people think of betrayal happening to them from someone else. When for me, it's more of an experience of, if I don't stay true to my heart and who I am and what I prefer longer than that negative thing that happened, or longer than uh, the negative thoughts I have of the experience, then I am betraying my connection to my soul and who I am. And so I learned like that the letting go that you're talking about, that was my process of also letting go of like expecting people to show up like me. That happened a lot during 2020 moving forward. I had expectations of all my yogini friends, to all my friends who were supposedly conscious, to communicate in a better way. And then one moment, like we were cool a year prior, the next moment I have a different opinion coming at me on Facebook or something in a negative way, where I started seeing how where people, when they're in their shadows, you might see more of where they're conflicted. And so this last 6 years has been really a process of accepting people where they are, loving where they are. Because I don't know if you're in this space, but if you're a step back from what had happened to what didn't happen to uh, to like the things that happened, like the behaviors and the strange things from Corey, if you step back, he is still very much a lovable guy. There's aspects of him is still lovable. And that's what you prefer. And that's what I would think you would hope to have some memory about, and that's it, and let it go. And that's how I choose to look at everyone. Like still, even my brother, who I don't know if I'll talk to again, he doesn't realize this, but when I think of him, my heart sometimes feels love and sometimes it aches, because I would always take him back. I would always, if he said sorry or here I am or I'm with you, I said okay, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah. I mean,
there's light in most people. There is some type of light in most people, and if you can connect to that, it does heal betrayal a lot quicker.
oh, I would agree with that for sure. I
Yeah.
just, it's sometimes I like for me, you know, I have gratitude still for Corey and what we built and we created and the fun and the laughter and all the things. It's like, it was an epic, but I'm at the point now where I'm not like, I have no ill will, no, nothing. Like there's none of that. Like Corey's on his own journey, he's on his own journey. And like I said, there's times where it was a moment where I was like, oh, these people that I thought, some people who I think are going to be in my life forever,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how connected and
Yes.
close we are, sometimes that doesn't mean that. And
Yeah.
you end up going other directions. And,
Yeah.
it was a huge one for me. And it's helped me because I'm really, with what's going on in the world, I'm not here to hold on to things. I'm here to keep raising my vibration, keep living
Mm-hmm.
from love and joy every day. And, whoever I vibrate with and who wants to vibe and do that will do that, but it's definitely helped me in release, like not trying to hold on, not trying to grasp, not
Mm-hmm.
trying to control, and all of that. I'm like, there's some epic human beings, and some come for a moment, some come for days, some come for weeks, some come for years, and you don't know. So it's just like it is the practice of faith and trusting that whoever's meant to be will continue, and you don't have to try to control it. You get to, that's one of the practices is loving and really loving from a healthy place is fully trusting another soul's journey
Mm-hmm.
and not trying to control it, right? Like be authentic, speak your truth, and that's all you got. Because at the end of the day, everybody's going to choose what they're going to choose.
Yeah. 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 Like, let's come from that, like that intersection was when you, myself, and Eric had met up and hiked, because
Yeah.
that turned into one of the most beautiful relationships with Eric. Like, Eric is one of my best friends. Eric and I
Yeah.
have done a lot of events together, including we have had some tension. I mean, he's going to watch this. Like, one of them
Yeah.
was where
Yeah. What up,
he,
Eric? I know. I love Eric.
uh, when we were, yeah, like we have a beautiful relationship, and he was dating somebody, and she was, they weren't like maybe official. I don't know what it was. I'm not going to say much
Yeah.
about it because she might even see this, but she was inappropriate, a little flirtatious with me when we met up. And here I am, I have my friend, and I want to be integrity, and I want to know how to communicate this with him, without hurting his feelings. I didn't know what to say. What was interesting is that she said something to him and said something very strange. and created this awkwardness. Like move fast forward, he discovered like, she created these bond, these trauma bonded relationships. She kind of would create these like fires, and she created this fire between him and I. And I got
Right.
really bothered. I raised my voice with him because I wanted him to know the truth, and like him not
Yeah.
go down that path where he has to find out the hard way. And he and I didn't talk, like maybe here and there. There was a year where we took some space, and
Yeah.
it totally healed itself. We spoke about it. We became closer, and then we started a project together. Like it was after my book release, and I decided to go in a different direction. And for him, his learning was in there. In that was to kind of find his own path as well. Because his thing was he's always helping out others rather than himself. But in all of that, like Eric and I have had many, it could be like, I don't know, three or something, where there was tension, but we
Yeah.
were able to talk about it, dude. We were able to
Yeah.
talk about it, move forward,
Yeah.
and we became closer. And that's like, if I were to be
That's
in
the whole
partnership
point.
with anybody, it'd be like that, because I trust him, he trusts me, and we talk about anything that comes up.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. I mean, that is the whole point, right? And I mean, that was the whole point. I mean, he's such a beautiful guy, and I remember vividly because he was so excited about the mailroom and what we were doing. I met him in
He told me that
Sundance.
yesterday. I told him I
Yeah,
was
and he
talking
was
to you.
like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
he was like, he at that time he was just like, blah, 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 blah. He's like, what, oh my God, this. He's like, I'm figuring all this stuff out. I'm like, right on. And so he was super active in his own healing, and having those conversations. And, um, but, partnership like that, like, the way I connected with Corey and did that, and even with you and Eric, it's like you have to tussle and toil with another person. That's why I tell everybody, even, my clients and anybody, whether it's business relationships, romantic relationships, anything, it takes time to really get to know somebody, like for real. And you have to like see each other through some shit. Like not just little things. You have to see each other through some serious shit to
Mhm.
really know who they are, how they function, and if they're willing to come to the table and talk and willing to soften and connect and come back and commingle and commune about it, because that doesn't just happen overnight. That takes time to develop that. And that is why one of the reasons I was so crushed by the thing that happened with Corey, because we were doing that for 4 years straight every day. We were
Mhm.
we were we were in each other's face constantly talking about stuff. So that whatever that drastic shift was where he just shut off, it was that, there's a lot of people who have that romantic relationship where the one person just shuts off. They're just done. They're
Mhm.
not talking anymore, and there's no explanation, no nothing, and you have to sit in that empty space
Mhm.
and just be with it, right? So it's there's no wrong or right way to do it. But in building trust, and especially in business and anything like that, it's just practicing, communicating, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's challenging, and that takes time.
Yeah, the you said that you have to sit in that empty space. What's interesting about that is, for me, that is no different than a Vipassana in a cave. Because
Yeah.
whether you agree this or not, that no matter what, you're still sitting with yourself,
Yeah.
your thoughts, and that how you process that, how you look at yourself, everything there is what exists in your consciousness in that moment. So if we're able to sit in anything, even a challenge, and feel some light, feel some hope, feel some forgiveness, or even feel the energy to be creative and take positive action, then we're moving out of that space in a more positive way. I partner up with somebody who he's born the same day as me. So there was this romantic idea. Wow, August 20th, he's a Leo. And he's really cool. He was, athletic also, like myself. So we got along really well. And we did some events together. And three women who had worked with him told me he was an asshole. And I try to approach him with that, and of course about them again. And
Right.
the way he spoke about his ex was like, one of his ex was on the movie The Secret. I forgot which woman it was, but
Yeah.
he's talking, saying that she's a narcissist, but every woman was the problem.
Right.
And then we started working together, and we to like move forward with things, and his shadows started coming up, and I started coaching him. And right when we got to where like things are being revealed, he disappeared. I've never spoken to him again. I was like, dude, really? And then of course, 3 years later, I see that he changed his name. He's in the Amazon doing ayahuasca, and he's now this completely different person. And I'm thinking, he's going to be probably, and people know this, no judgment, those typical people where you become a plant medicine facilitator, you haven't done your work, and you're the people who are doing medicine with you have strange or negative experiences because you don't know how to hold that container of intimacy,
Yeah.
because you can't do it with, if you can't do it with your girlfriends or your coworker or partner like myself, how can you do it anywhere? You're gonna, because what's interesting is that there's this idea it's another person. The projection,
Yeah.
yeah, it might be physically another person, or the projection might be a group of people. Literally, it might be 12 people. But when you're in that space with that one person, the other person, or 12 people, you're still sitting with yourself with your insecurities, anger issues, whatever it is. So it's going to show up. And so I like mean when I knowing that myself, it's like when I have negative thoughts about my partner who is amazing. Why would I? I mean, she really is amazing. Like that's one thing, by the way, it's been so amazing for my healing journey. Like she shows up so presently with love and consistency. Any moment I have thoughts, because she is so pure and I see a pure mirror, I have a moment and I do take pause. I feel into that. That's me once again, and my stuff, my shadows. Like for example, my father was pretty critical, but also he was literally a sergeant. So he bossed people around, and it was always about improving, get things done. So he was one of those people where he point out things that need to be fixed versus appreciate and compliment. And so I've taken on some of those patterns where I have good intentions, but I might point out what to fix, what we need to do, rather than create that connection. And so if she were to say that doesn't feel good, or say that like, can you show the boys more love first, or that, hey, why are we here in this relationship? Why would I argue with that? Because that was the disconnect my father had with my mother, at times. It would hurt her, and my father didn't know that. He didn't have that information. In fact, I remember having a conversation with them, and he said something to her that's something he would say to a man. And I said, Mom, how did you really feel by him saying that? And she said, it hurt me. And my father, his eyes got watery. He's like, I am so sorry. And so, I'm sharing this, it's kind of digressing a little bit. It's that relationships are there to improve us no matter what, because people are going to reflect how we show up. They're going to project, but it's still up to us to determine whether it's true for us or not. And if that conversation comes up, like as an example, I could be intense, and I'm noticing it more and more. I'm pretty passionate. I never thought it sounded like anger, but I was raised by a sergeant. Like it's like, and so what I've had like people in customer service. I've had my partner. I've had multiple people say, "Are you angry? Why are you yelling?" And at first I was saying, "I'm not yelling. I'm Jewish." Something, But no, it's true. It's true. Like it does sound like, why am I? There's a tone of sarcasm in that. Like, because my father's a New York Jew from the Bronx. Yeah, sometimes they sound angry. I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
probably do sound like that. So it's true. And so if people are saying things to us and you hear it multiple times, there's probably some truth to that, and it's okay. Sit with
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
and figure out if you want to change it. Yep.
Yeah. So talk a little more about your relationship and how this has like healing has helped you. Because you guys have been together now for how long?
We've been together for 4.5 years.
4.5 years.
Hmm.
That's a long time. Because you were back when I knew you, you were dating. It was not there was nothing very consistent. You were kind of
Hmm.
bouncing around. So what was the shift for you that has had this last?
So Max, Ma- my son Maximus showing up.
Yeah.
That really
Yeah.
was it. And when
Yeah.
I say that, it's because he showed up. You know the story. He was already
Yeah.
5.5 months old. By the way, I'm working on my parenting book, and I share more of the details what his becoming because it's relevant for the book. But he
Yeah.
showed up when he was 5.5 months old, and in that space, I had to really, really drop into everything I preached. Like
Right.
deep
So
compassion
fill
because
people in. So you found out you didn't find out you had a son until he was 5.5 months old.
5.5 months old. So listen to this would be one of the most ultimate betrayals. His mother keeping it from me and her going through a pregnancy with not me being involved. Talk about that level of betrayal, that
Yeah.
level of like helplessness, and like I
Yeah.
wasn't part of the picture. It really hit me hard when we started co-parenting, and it was like I remember it was like 3 months after her showing up, and I was at Riverside City College, and I was scoping out the school there because she wanted to cut hair at the time. And this school was perfect because what it did is it had the school right there, and like maybe 50 yards was a daycare. And when I walked into the daycare and I saw the babies behind the glass, that was the first time I wept about, oh, I didn't have this experience. To, oh
Yeah.
my God, I didn't see my child take his first breath. And that's when it hit me like I got angry, also like, but I had to let that go because, the story I would make up was it's better that I saw him when he's 5.5 months old rather than 21 with a goatee, looks just like me, but taller. Like, oh,
Yeah.
hi, I'm your son, you know? Like,
Yeah.
so, but that was
What was her what was her reasoning for finally coming clean and like coming forward?
I can't exactly speak for her. Her and I are very close right now,
Yeah.
but I would say that it was primarily that she was with a psychotic man who was also providing for her, and she was set up in a situation where there was only one car. She was, I don't want to say in a helpless position, but it's where she also had other kids. So here she didn't know how to make the decision. She was stuck without the resources. But when he finally became violent, it was becoming too much. She actually fled. She fled from him, and she took that chance. So I commend
Yeah.
her for that. So that's why. That's the short story. But you to answer the question, how that helped me move forward was that she was intimidated by me. She felt judged by me, all these things. And I went to a retreat. I was really shutting down. Like my business was declining, and it wasn't because of any like apparent reason other than emotions. And I went to a
Yeah.
workshop, and in this space, I dropped into being in her shoes and to experience what Ray is like. It was so vivid. I can feel my judgments, my anger, and there was absolutely no way that we can co-parent in a good direction with me being that version of myself. And so that
Yeah.
was the big shift. And then just through that kind of evolution, the other one was, I noticed while I wasn't a heartbreaker or a playboy, that I was still somewhat connecting, hanging out. I wasn't like out there lying, but I was enjoying my life. And whether it was because the right person didn't show up or I didn't show up as a right person to attract that, that's
Yeah.
what was going on. So think about this. I was with Max. I didn't have most of my friends like you didn't have kids. Most of my friends were like night owls. And so all of a sudden I became like this domesticated Leo, and I to take care of this child full time. started taking care of him full time. So I'm wanting to go out, but I had to sit with myself. And it was
Wow.
almost like raising him and noticing that, like where I wanted to be somewhere else, I moved through a lot of stuff. And then
Yeah.
through that, the experience, it was like 2021, my father died. And that's when I flew with my friend Mina to Ashland or Medford. Then we drove through Ashland to Mount Shasta. I fell in love with Ashland. It was a different vibe. It was perfect for me at the time. And then I moved there and then I met Nicole. Here's the funny thing, Brad, is that you're going to love this. I met Nicole at LIB and did not know it, meaning that I was on mushrooms and
Yeah.
probably she was as well.
Yeah.
And amongst the 10, 15,000 people, I took only like 20 pictures. And when we started talking, like we like thought it was the first time meeting, we were surprised we had not met each other before because they had common friends in common. I was cleaning up my hard drive in Santa Monica before I left. And I'm like,
Yeah.
holy shit, I sent it to her. And she said, I go, is that you? She says, yes. And that's my ex-boyfriend. I'm like, oh my God. And so we talk about that because it's like we were not consciously
That's
ready
funny.
to meet each other until 10 years
Yeah.
later. And her
Yeah.
too. She was a yogi, but not fully in integrity. She still maybe was partying a little bit. I mean, there's different things that she wasn't fully aligned yet. Not that someone has to become perfect, but her
Mhm.
journey is the same where like until she really got to clarity, she wasn't available. And we both did that by being single parents. So her son is only a year and a half younger than my son. It's a pretty amazing spiritual Brady Bunch family situation.
Spiritual Brady Bunch.
Yeah, yeah. It's like we
I
wake
love
up
it.
before the kids and she does her morning practices. I do my
Yeah.
practices. Then the kids get up. Like we're very much the same. Like she's a female version of me.
Yeah. That's epic.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
epic. Look
Yeah.
at
So
us all
that's
growing up. Look at us growing up.
well, I'm assuming I'm not that I need a review from you, but I'm hoping I'm less guarded. I used to come off extra professional, maybe using, I don't know,
Yes,
superfluous
you are
words.
less
I don't know.
guarded. Yeah, you're less guarded. I mean, but I've noticed that I've been watching your stuff and everything. I can completely tell you're less guarded. Because yes, you used to be like, I would call kind of like maybe a perfectionist or wanted to be perfect and all the
Mhm.
things professional. Yeah, all that
Yeah.
stuff. But you definitely would still go into stuff, but it's way nicer to see you just like flow and just here it is. Here's it all. Here it is. It's all here. All of it is right. No more, no
Yeah.
more, no more trying to be perfect or whatever.
Yeah. It's a lot
Yeah,
easier.
it's way easier. Being our
Well,
authentic selves is way easier.
well, the thing is, this is something I share with all my clients, and that is, when we're in that kind of container, uh, whether they're in some hypnotic state or whatever, that majority of them has had some level of success in moving forward, and they might feel
Yeah.
blocked in one area in their life. And what I do is I bring their attention to when they are successful and things were maybe their version of working out. And the question I ask is, can you believe absolutely that your effort and stress in that situation is what made you successful? And always the response is no. It's no. And then I ask,
Exactly.
do you think there was something in the unseen that you couldn't see at the time because you were so stressed out that happened to support you anyway? Always the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So, like, so for me, moving forward in life, I might have a map, but I also know that I'm not going to beat myself up about it. Like, even like you and I
Yeah.
doing this
Talk to
call,
God.
I don't know if we're going to echo. I
Yeah.
don't, you know what I mean?
I
Before I
know.
would have said, hey, let's do it the day before and let's figure it out. And then we would have done it. And then my fucking internet would have not worked the next day. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I did that work the
Exactly.
other day before. And yet it
Yeah.
wasn't meant to happen, anyway. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, well, we
So
stopped trying to control things. Well, you were hilarious. I loved yesterday. Was it yesterday? I think you were in the bathtub or the hot tub, and you're like, okay, and I'm like, look, you said my tendency's this, and I'm just gonna. I was like, listen, just show the. All you have to do is show the fuck up. You don't have to do a goddamn thing. Just show up. Okay,
yeah,
don't try to control anything. You can send me your things, but you just all you got to do is show up, bro.
yeah. What's funny is that I actually share that with Eric. I share that with Eric, and I said, I go, it's funny. I go, because typically, right, it would be Corey or me steering you. Is that
Yeah.
true or no?
Well, Corey was definitely more meticulous like you, where
Yeah, yeah,
he needed an outline. He wanted all of the bullet points and the outline and the thing. I had the more of the vision and
yeah,
could
yeah,
see like the thing and could lead it that way. So it was a great mesh. That's why we worked well together.
yeah.
Is yeah.
I saw you guys like as Oscar and Felix,
Yeah, there you go.
couple,
Exactly.
the odd couple.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I shared with him that I said, I go, it's interesting. I go, like I felt a little overwhelmed because I'm in the middle of several things right now, including closing the home. I shared that with you. I can't do this, but instead of holding it in and saying no or being rigid, I let you know. See, that's part of me, not trying to show like I can do it all, dude. Like
Yeah.
that's my new level of vulnerability. You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
so to hear you say those things and to be guided and taken care of like that, I share that with Eric. I go, I let Brad step into the masculine for me. I go, it felt great. I go, I sometimes just want to be the talent, you know what I mean? And have someone manage me, you know what I mean? And so,
100%.
but I still yesterday sent you some copy.
I know. Well, what made me laugh was that I was like, look, bro, all you gotta do is show up. And then in the morning, I know, because I know how you work. You're excited, you're still thinking, and you're like, well, here's some coffee anyway. I woke up and I was having my coffee, dude, and I was laughing my ass off. I'm like, he can't help himself. He can't help himself. He's like, he's gotta, here's some ideas just in case.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. Yeah, I know. It is what it is,
As long as but as long as it's from you being excited,
Yeah,
that's what matters. But
yeah,
that's the point, right? Is like it's
yeah,
about our boundaries and learning what that means for each one of us.
yeah,
And sometimes we get overwhelmed in our heads and it doesn't have to be that way, right? And
yeah.
that's why I was literally giggling because I was literally like, Ray, I got it, I'll do this. And you're like, well, here's some copy anyway. And I was just giggling. I'm reading it. I'm like, this is great. This is perfect.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's I want to bring this up before I don't know if we're about to close this, but it's about a different like level of like expansion as well. When I was in my stuff, and that was 2020, 2021, and my parents had passed away, and I was experiencing like fogginess to other things in my body. I was just challenged, and nothing Western doctors could fix, which could be more frustrating, which that experience as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
You can't go to Western doctor and then say, oh, this is what you had and this is why you're better. You know what I mean?
No,
So
no.
I I attracted a VA named JT, and he is from Pakistan. And in that, we had some moments where I was getting frustrated to where the way I spoke to him to a point where he thought maybe I was yelling at him was coming up. And, I apologize, but there was moments within the year to 2 years, there was some tension. But he also had kind of somewhat an abrasive personality as well. He would get in my face as well. But because he was younger than me, because I know he had good intentions, I also appreciated him not backing down. And now, like, it's so crazy and it fills my heart with joy. He seems like another son to me. And he shares that with me that, you're a cool dude. You're like a father I didn't have and whatever. I remember introducing spiritual stuff to him, like stuff that maybe is really out there. And now he believes this stuff. To even met with one of my friends who helped him with his diet, and he got shredded. So I'm like, yeah, I love seeing men win. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now,
absolutely.
he's in such a different place in his life, and I love him. And at some point, we're going to meet up. You know what I mean? At some point, we'll meet in
Yeah.
person. I love the guy like a son. But the point of me sharing that was that the fact that we met each other for a reason. And everybody I meet is, it might be for 5 minutes, for a day, 5 years, 10 years, or for life. And what's interesting in that is the people who supposedly were spiritual, who've done more of the inner work, who connected me to him or made that happen, are not aligned. They're not there. He is. And one thing I know is that every relationship I attract is what I need. Every relationship I attract is what I need. But it's also my choice for how long. For how long. And there's a lot of power in that, with having strong boundaries and not betraying myself by disconnecting from what I really prefer, what I want, in that clear map of moving forward and growing anyway. Because truly, when I say this statement, people are doing the best that they can. I would probably more say that people are doing the best of what they're consciously aware of.
That's more accurate.
Yep. Yeah.
Totally more accurate. Yeah.
Yep.
I would have fully aligned with that. Yeah. It's, I mean, again, we're all here learning to, hopefully anybody who's even remotely awake is learning to live from a place of hopefully self-love and compassion, right? And joy. Like I really base, since I came through my whole experience, that's the one thing that deepened so deeply after the Kundalini, was that when I came out of that hell, I really did stop suffering. Like I've let go of suffering. I don't suffer emotionally like that anymore. Like I haven't, because I made a promise during that time. I was like, okay, God, if I ever get out of this, I'm not going to go back and cause my own suffering anymore. It doesn't mean I don't have challenges and stuff and things, but it just isn't, I don't go into that any sort of egoic woe's me, suffering intentionally anymore. And life has been such a blast, even with the challenges. I almost lost my dad last year. Shit, 2 weeks ago, we had to take him to the ER again. I mean, I'm having challenges left and right, but it's just like I'm able to stay present and speak my truth and be clear and come from love. Sometimes I vent, sometimes I go the fuck off, but it still is to get myself back regulated to alignment again, to come back to peace, to my peace. And I love it. I love life. It's a blast. Even with the challenges, it's epic. It's awesome to come back full circle with you after all these years and see how you're doing and being a dad and like all these things. It's so cool. And I mean, what a fucking cool experience.
Well, hopefully one day you get to meet Max. He's hilarious. Yeah. He is hilarious.
I bet.
He's for sure a mini me.
What is his when's his birthday?
He's July 17th.
Oh, cool.
He is a Cancer with a Leo rising.
Oh yeah.
He acts probably more like me, but he has a certain level of probably a little more sensitivity. I would say he's just a better version of me.
Well, that's what we're hoping for, right?
Yes, yeah, and he knows it too. Meaning that, like, I'm, like, it's in my book. People are gonna like read one day some of the things I say and how I approach things. But
yeah,
I'm very open. You remember, I knew it already that he was going to ask certain questions. Like, his mother and I have never been together except with the hookup.
Yeah.
So, like so I had to approach that softly and gently to where he was when he was younger. And then now, the first story is like, your mother and I came together because we were excited to see each other, like your love child, but saying your love child when the child's 1 or 2 years old has a more magical meaning,
Right. Right.
You fast forward, it's like 13, he's 11 now. He's like, he knows people hook up. He's like, oh, okay.
Love child. Love child.
Yeah. He's
understanding now more.
So he has said stuff like this. He's pretty funny.
Okay.
And I know they'll there'll be mothers or parents like, oh my God. And I'll just say, you know what? He's happy and confident. Keep
Yeah.
your judgment to yourself.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
we've walked by the condom section, at a grocery
Yeah.
store, and he's like made a joke like, huh, I go like, hey dad, I go, maybe you should think about those once in a while. And he's because the conversation came around about birth control of like how his mother got pregnant. But of course,
Yeah.
if I would have warned that, he wouldn't have been born. You know what I mean?
He wouldn't even
So
be here. Yeah.
that's the irony of it. But the point is that we're
Yeah.
that open, and
That's awesome.
he's close to his mother and myself. We get along really well.
Yeah, but that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's the new earth. That's the kind of open and
Yeah.
vulnerability and everything that we all need to be living from, because
Yep.
it's just stop any of the fear or judgment or any of it, right? Because the earlier we can start being that ourselves, we demonstrate that to our children and to kids.
Hmm.
And then because like my nephews, I've been that open with them from day one, like the entire time. And we
Hmm.
talk about anything and everything.
Hmm.
And I love having that dynamic because they're the closest thing to kids that I have, and they're epic. They're all beautiful and epic, and my niece as well, but they're hilarious. And their
Hmm.
level of awareness and humor and their intelligence and stuff is off the charts.
Yep.
It's off the charts. They make me laugh like a mother. I'm like, holy shit, you guys are funny. They understand me a lot more now too. Now they're like, we always called you the crazy Uncle Brad, but now we get it. Now we understand you.
I get it. I know that. Like, there's movies where they portray that crazy uncle, and sometimes he's cool, and sometimes he's actually a loser.
Right, right,
And
right.
you know, so we've seen those movies, and I share with both Yeshua and Max. I'm like, I was always that uncle, the fun uncle, or I
Right.
always was that way with my friends' kids. I said I was a little
Yeah.
wild, and
Yeah.
um, you know, and that hasn't really changed. There's things that come out of my mouth I say that's like, whoa, I won't say it in front of other people unless they know me or something. But it's like having a camera in and not as toxic and all the F bombs, but it's like watching the Osbournes,
Yeah.
like you said, I'm a
Totally.
musician. There's another side of my personality, which, they accept. And um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. I know.
so
They get privy to it.
yeah, yeah. So
Well, so okay, we'll get ready to end here, but like what would you say with coming back to betrayal? What are the main tools if you left people with one or two or three tools, real tangible tools that you would share with people that would be beneficial to them?
yeah, I'll leave two, or it might end become one. We'll see. I'm going to make it up in real time. So the first one
Okay.
I spoke about, and it's about allow yourself to fully project onto that person and that story. And when you do that, focus on your solar plexus. So you might write that in your journal, such as so and so's an asshole. I can't believe you did this, blah, blah, blah. And then look at that and then put your hands on your heart and look at those words and ask yourself these questions. How do I feel in my heart when I think this way? How do I feel in my heart when I
Mm,
create this story? How do I feel truly about myself when I am this version of myself?
mm.
That's one exercise that will soften things. Number two,
How often do you need to do that?
well, person might do it one time and it's release. Another person might need a week to do it or a month.
Mm,
But I don't want them to spend 5 years on it, Brad.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
mean, obviously as quick as possible.
yeah, yeah. So number two is most people who feel betrayed, they had expectations. Bottom line.
Yeah.
So you'll write down the positive stories about if he or she would have done that, what the outcome would have been to serve you. Like, just call it what it is, because there's some part of you that's invested in for it to benefit you. So it could
Yep.
have been, I could have been famous. We could have gotten married to We could have gotten this beautiful house, or it'll be this story. And then when you see it, the truth of some of the reasons why you're actually very angry because it didn't create something you wanted, then you step back again and ask yourself, can I become these things anyway? Can I do these things anyway? Are these things relevant for me anyway?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, that way you break the codependency, and this idea where you are is because of him or her.
Exactly.
Those
Well, the
two
good thing is those are great exercises, great tangible exercises for people. And I will just say that I'm super blessed because I'm married myself and I'm famous in my own mind and world. And I'm a multi-billionaire, trillionaire as well in my own mind and world. So I've resolved all that.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I know. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, so but in all seriousness, those are really great tools, people, to use. Because I have a lot of people who are struggling, going through stuff like that, where it's really the awareness to look at those things and practice those tools. And like you said, not have it be for years and years, but like to really practice where it's days, weeks, maybe months, but it takes as long as it takes to, if you're committed to really release any anger or upset, or sadness, where you can really truly process it through your body and release it. Like I said, I had numerous experiences where one of them where I got physical with the pillow and beat the shit out of the pillow and let that out because it came out in the moment and I trusted it. And, and it was like exactly what I needed. So it was like different things like that we can all do. So whether it's taking a hot yoga class or a boxing class, talking to a coach, writing things out, doing these practices, it can help you to start to process all of the energy and everything that's been trapped in our bodies to release it.
Yep. Well, thank you very much. And it's also, let me grab it here. Of course, I got to plug this. My book.
Of course. Oh, awesome.
All it takes is one. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. Is that what I share with you, Brad? There are exercises in there because it's a both a read plus kind of like a workbook where it helps you turn those questions around on yourself.
Yeah.
To find those hidden beliefs.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so and let people know your website if they want to reach you.
It's my name, raydoktor.com, RAYDOKTOR.com.
Awesome. Well, it's been a blast.
Thank you, brother.
Catching up with you again. It's been fun, all these conversations, and this is great. This was a blast.
Thank you. Well, maybe we'll do it again. Let's see what happens with this.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see all our mistakes and fuck ups and stuff, and then we can be judgmental. and and I can be like, "Why did you do that? How come this? This is your fault."
And then I can send you 3 pages of copy to make sure it's
right.
perfect. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's perfect. Awesome.
All right, brother.
All
Good
right,
seeing
brother.
you.
Well, you too. Have a beautiful day.
All right.